What's going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, June 8th. It's a throwback Thursday, my favorite, personal favorite day of the week. And I've got not one, but two co hosts riding with me today. And it's going to be a blast. First, I'm going to introduce our regular Thursday co host, Head of Opinions. And I'm going to get this right once again this time. 2 in a row, Anthony. Anthony Ricciardi, Head of Opinions, Wrestling Republic, and my good friend. How are you on this fine Thursday?
I'm doing all right. Like MJF said last night, I'm contractually obligated to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking about the show.
Absolutely. I love it. And introducing next, as you can see on the other side of your screen, let's go ahead and make sure you're unmuted, Chad. I know you're on that. Sorry. But how are you today? Welcome to Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. I am officially more of an old head. I turned 31 a couple days ago, so this is an older, wiser, the wise man, Shad Huda. But I'm glad to be here, man. Talk AEW, talk some throwback wrestling. Let's get it popping.
Absolutely. I'm stoked about it myself. And yeah, man, welcome to the 31 Club. I've only got a few months left. I'm 32.
Yeah, one my first lap in the 30s, so it's all right.
It's been good for me. I've had to pick a few more gray hairs out the side, but other than that, 31 feels a heck of a lot like 26. To be totally honest, at least that's
reassuring to know.
At least that's where I'm at. But as fun as that intro was, unfortunately, our throwback topic, which we'll get to at the end, is a somber one. We're going to honor the Iron Sheik. Rest in peace and best wishes to his family. It's a brutal week, absolutely. But before we do that, let's get into Dynamite. Out of the gates, we've got Orange Cassidy defending the title against Swerve Strickland. Anthony, I'm going to start with you. Your thoughts on the match, your thoughts on the result, and where do they both go from here?
It's funny, you always throw Orange to me because you're the huge fan and I'm not. Every time. I thought it was a good match. I don't know exactly where they're going long term with Orange. I mean, they're having him do successful defenses. I'm not sure who they're going to have him drop it to. It's really kind of the opposite of the situation you have with the TNT title, where it's like they're just hot potatoing it. This one, they're going for a long reign, which I'm fine with. I prefer it. I think it adds more prestige to the title and adds more credibility to the person who's wrestling. Orange is doing less of the little fake kicks, which I've told you I absolutely hate. That's part of the reason. I don't know where the other thing I don't really fully get is his relationship with the best friends, because it seems like every time someone's saving him, it's not the best friends. Now it's Darby and Sting, but his own tag partners are not with him. I don't fully understand that.
Yeah, that is an odd one. I totally get where you're coming from, but I do want to go back to with what you started with, which was it was a good match. I'm kidding. I didn't want to throw it in your face like that. Sean, did you have thoughts on this one?
So I've been. It's not a secret how I feel about Orange Cassidy and his title reign. I absolutely adore this title reign. I love the just aspect of him being, which I do like. It's funny because he don't like it, but I do like it. I like the troll, just kind of I don't give a F personality that he has in regards to it, but him also being a fighting champ. It was a spectacular match. But it does come to a point where Orange Cassidy is kind of more OP. People were kind of saying he's overpowered because he's just going through opponent after opponent after opponent. And I can kind of see where it is a little bit of a, concern. But in my mind, I'm like, I think he kind of made that title when we initially got it as just this is another title that TK's throwing on the AEW show. I feel like he's brought prestige to it. He's made it matter. And I mean, him being so popular, I feel like his reign might last a little bit longer. The only issue I do have with it is more so for his opponent Swerve, because I mean, man, we really had a beautiful moment at that final ending of the Battle Royal, and it kind of felt like going into this match where we're like, is Swerve gonna get his get back? Is he gonna win? He's got the Mogul Embassy with him, but he still ends up losing. I believe now. And then my own other confusion part is like, what happened to him and Keith Lee? I know they're having a match coming up. I believe is it next week on Dynamite where they threw Keith Lee into it as well. It's like Swerve still has his feud with that, but now I kind of want to see him have an ongoing feud with Cassidy where he gets it off. So it is a little confusing. I feel like there's a lot of different parallels happening, and we're also getting like Sting and Darby in it, which was a little random to me too. Obviously, a Sting is always going to get a pop when he comes in, but
Sting pop was awesome, but that's where I was like, the only reason I even cut it back to here is because I agree. You just took the spotlight off of Swerve. It's really funny because me and Drizzy had a whole conversation about this yesterday, and we both picked if you're ever going to take the belt off Orange in a surprise title change, Swerve's kind of the guy tonight. And
Sure.
I agree with so much of what you were saying about adding prestige to the title. Absolutely. That's 100% what Cassidy's done. Not that Pac didn't have a good reign. We just didn't see much of it. He traveled and defended the belt outside of AEW. And it's funny because it was like, oh, the belt's not being defended. It's like, now you're just not watching, but it's too much to have to watch. Cassidy, by appearing with the title on television, has made it something. Then you sit back and you look and you go, Swerve's so over, and the Keith Lee factor. I'm wondering if we can't figure out a triple threat with Keith Lee, Swerve, and Orange. And that's when you have the title switch, whether it's Keith or Swerve to take the belt. Yeah. But I'm hoping that that's where they're leading. I don't know. You guys' quick thoughts, because we got to move on to the next topic.
I mean, honestly, I would think if you're looking at it today, I would argue that the belt Orange is carrying is more prestigious than the TNT, just based on how they've hot potatoed the TNT. Even though the TNT has technically been around a little longer, I think Orange's long reign has helped this title, as a whole. So whoever wins it, there's a little more prestige there. Whoever wins it, whether it's Keith, whether it's Swerve, I think the smart move is having possibly Swerve win it and Keith chasing it, and Keith Orange doesn't have to be involved in the pin. So if they're worried about protecting Orange, one of the other two could take the pinfall and then go off where they're going, and Orange can go somewhere else if they're deciding to branch them off.
Yeah, I mean, I share the same thoughts on that. I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of just what's the textbook definition of the belt when it first came out. Was it supposed to be that, like, because I know Pac had it, like you mentioned, was it one of those like I can fight it at a show in the UK, in Japan, in Mexico, all of that? But it's like I do like that the fact I'm seeing it more on AEW television with Cassidy's reign. And yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you 100%. I think it's kind of what they wanted the TNT title to be. It's that workers like television title,
the workhorse title.
Yeah, but with Swerve, I feel like he can incredible in the ring, incredible overall. Swerve is my favorite heel in AEW and one of my favorite wrestlers in pro wrestling. He can do it all. So yeah.
I totally agree. I think you guys both made awesome points as far as like the way this title has been built. It's funny because we forget it was the All Atlantic before it was the International, right? And like people got confused, like is it the International Continental? Like what is this? Come on, right. Is it a knockoff title? I actually think things settled down. He put the title in the backpack. As goofy as that gimmick is, it fits him perfectly, right? He's the kid that sits at the lockers. He's quiet. He's got his two buddies, Trent and Chucky, that talk to him, and they get him, and nobody else really does. But if you go and try to pick on the kid in the jean jacket, he's going to punch you in the face. And he may be skinny, and he may be small, and he looks non-threatening. But if he punches you in the face with that Superman punch, it's ball game. And so back to the OP thing we kind of talked about earlier. I think that's part of the brilliance of the Orange Cassidy gimmick, is he's the classic high school kid that gets underestimated. He's quiet, kind of a loner. He's got his two buddies that he chats with. That's about it. Sit down by the lockers in his jean jacket and his jeans, eats his lunch by himself, usually listening to music, probably indie music that I've never heard. and then if you mess with him, he's gonna punch you in the face, and it hurts. And that's I think the brilliance of Orange Cassidy in some sense. But we could talk about this one all day. We got to move along.
Look, the soundtrack is probably the OC soundtrack. Remember when they used to release those?
Yeah,
with the
pretty
random
much.
indie songs. Yeah,
That, and then like, I mean, dude, honestly, Jane and I loved "Where's My Mind" by the Pixies.
Me too. That song was great.
Oh, it was an excellent entrance for him. Both are outstanding.
Yeah.
But let's get into the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yes.
Versus Chaos. This was so interesting, and it's for the lead for Forbidden Door. I'm gonna toss to you, Shad, right away. How did you feel about this? What do you think it plays out with storyline wise? We've already seen kind of some of the individual matchups, but I think the rivalry between the two factions will lead to multiple matchups at Forbidden Door. What do you think that looks like based on last night and what we've seen so far?
I mean, last night is just we're continuing to see why BCC, in my opinion, is the best heel faction, because now the Bloodline is not really a faction anymore, but the best heel faction in pro wrestling, man. Like, these guys clock in, go to work, and just whip ass, man. Like, that's all they really do. And then, I mean, this is no difference in it. I thought it was a great match. Did find it funny that after Sting and Darby came in, we saw Best Friends appear for their match without any like ties to either match. I thought that was kind of funny, but I mean, you open the door for anything. I mean, Chaos, they got a lot of members that branch out from the New Japan spectrum. So I mean, you can do a lot. Obviously, we know Danielson already has his match booked, and he's not really part of the 6-man or like the multi-man matches that'll probably be for it. But I'm assuming it might be a tag team with like Yuta and Claudio that might have a match. And on Forbidden Door, maybe that may be the case. I mean, we're really seeing Wheeler Yuta kind of break out too. Like, you saw how he just manhandled at the end, like just going to town and just looking like a killer, man. Like, he looks like a killer now. Like, he's really been doing his thing. So I mean, I enjoyed the match for the most part. I love Best Friends. I love Rocky Romero, man. I think that dude is great. And like, just knowing how much he does with the pipeline for like New Japan and other wrestling promotions and stuff, like it was great overall.
Definitely agree with you on the Rocky Romero thing. The one thing I will say is, and I'm not the biggest New Japan guy, but if I remember correctly, aren't Trent Beretta and Rocky Roppongi Vice?
Yeah, they are.
That's why there was their involvement. I think they're at least Trent, I believe, is a member of Chaos, technically, or even an honorary.
So is Sue.
He is in the faction.
So is Sue.
Really, Sue is an honorary member. I love Sue.
I think Rocky Romero said it like in an interview. It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Roppongi Vice is them. I know. I get that part of it. I just thought it was funny that, like, we just saw Orange Cassidy the match
right
before.
After they're like, Orange, you're good. We're worried about Rocky.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Anthony, what were your thoughts on this one as a whole?
I find it interesting that they're really showing the dominance of the Combat Club. The past couple of weeks, that they've dominated 3-man teams. So I'm curious to see, is the direction ultimately at some point to have them in House of Black? Like, I feel like that's the direction it has to. Logically, it should go there. If you have them dominating other 3-man teams, you can't have them do that and go, yeah, we're not interested in the titles. It has to lead there, whether it's all in, all out, whatever. I think it needs to go there. I would just presume that's where it's going. But at the same point, I don't necessarily think they're done with the Elite either. So I don't know where that falls in the grand scheme of things. I would assume they'd have to finish with the Elite before they would get the House of Black, unless they make a detour and do Black and then go back to the Elite. That's the part I don't know.
See, I don't know the exact dates on Blood and Guts, and I think the Elite stuff is going to happen to Blood and Guts, and I actually do believe that that's between Forbidden Door and the next pay-per-view. That'd be the only answer I have to your question there, Anthony.
Yeah.
But before we move to the next topic, we've got some comments here from our good buddy Anthony Manzano. He said, hey, Shad, hey, Anthony, and I believe you meant Clark there, but
Hey, Court.
Yeah, either
Okay.
way. And then do you guys think Claudio, Danielson, and Moxley during Forbidden Door and or try to recruit another young guy to add with Wheeler to the Blackpool Combat Club? I don't see why they would. I feel like if they're going to add someone, I'll go first on this one. At least
Yeah, God.
you guys can both go. But I think if they're going to add someone, it would have been Daniel Garcia long ago. I think Daniel Garcia fits the group better than, to be honest, I think Wheeler does. I think he fits the group better than basically anybody else. Daniel Garcia is perfect for that group. He is a technician's technician. I've seen him wrestle live enough times that I go like, wait a minute. He looks like a shooter in the ring. He looks like he's obviously not on the level of grappler as Chad Gable, but he's got that level of acumen as far as hooking and shooting and holds and suplexes and all of that. Garcia would be the only guy I would put in there. And I actually think, oddly though, it worked out the way it should have, because what Garcia didn't need to work on was being that vicious, which is what's going on in the Blackpool Combat Club. What he needed to work on was promos. And he's done it, and he's more charismatic than he's ever been. Teasing, leaving, staying, whatnot, comedy stuff, serious stuff. He's done it all. He's at least had the opportunity on the mic to throw it at the wall and see what sticks over the last year. And I think Daniel Garcia is a guy to keep an eye on come 2024. That's a future prediction, but I see a lot of improvement in that guy's mic work, and I know his in the ring. Anthony, I'm going to go with you first, then Shad, really quick, just on that answer of the question on the comment.
Yeah, I know we're going to probably get to it shortly. The person that I thought should have been, if they were going to add anybody to the Combat Club, and I've said repeatedly, Don Callis and Takashita should have been in there. I think Don Callis could have been the manager, the invisible hand that turned them into the Dark Combat Club, and Takashita could benefit from being in there. That would have been my pick if you were going to add.
Absolutely. And I like that pick. Shad, you got a pick as well?
There's one pick, and it's far fetched from anything because it has nothing to do storyline related with him now. But my pick was, and it came from, and it stemmed from the beginning of when Blackpool Combat Club was creating, because I thought it was initially going to be Danielson, Moxley, and a bunch of young guys. Obviously, Garcia was a great person for it, but it's Lee Moriarty, man. I think that dude is like just he's so good, man. He's such a great technical wrestler. I think you could have really like had him under the wing of Danielson and been a killer, but
would have benefited greatly. I totally agree. But let's move on to our next one so we can actually get to throwback, by the way, at some point here. I'm kidding. But my favorite segment of the night, Max and Adam Cole. I mean, come on, guys. What more could you ask for as soon as the it's all Adam Cole hit? Oh, man. I was like, that's exactly what we need. It's somebody who's not just going to look like a moron on the other side of the microphone with MJF. And they gave us every minute of it. I watched it with my dad, and it's so funny. He looked up. He goes, I got an early flight tomorrow. Is this going to end on the top of the hour? I go, I don't see him stopping it. And they didn't. They went past the commercial break, and they gave the commercial just after the top of the hour. They went all the way. I loved it. I thought Adam Cole sitting and waiting and then having to ask for the mic himself. That's just pro wrestling 101 brilliance. The moment of, oh no, he's going to talk too. It's a cheap pop, if you want to call it that. But I thought last night that one was expensive because it reminded you how big Adam Cole really is. Babyface, heel, it doesn't matter. People know what his talent is. And MJF picked every low-hanging fruit he could possibly shoot on. From start to finish, whether it be the body stuff, Dr. Britt Baker, from that all the way to you were going to be Keith Lee's manager. I mean, one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. And I loved Punk and MJF's back and forth when they had it, the 18-minute promo segment that people talk about for the dog collar match. I thought Adam Cole did as well as Punk did, if not better. And that's a lot coming from me. He responded in kind in the perfect, most babyface, confident, I can talk, You can't get under my skin. I know better. Let's fight then, but without looking rattled, without looking flustered, without losing his cool. And it was Pro Wrestling Promo 101. Start with you here, Anthony, then toss it to you, Shad. But what did you guys think? I personally loved it.
I mean, it's very rare if you get an MJF promo that is not the most compelling segment on the show. He is a once in a generation talent. I've said this multiple times before. The closest thing that anybody's ever come to Piper in the pipe down department, where you have no idea what he's going to say, but you're compelled to watch it. Adam Cole himself has always been really good on the mic. So the two of them together should create really entertaining television. Like you said, MJF definitely dug in with all the low-hanging fruit, from pointing out the body stuff, which obviously Adam Cole has dealt with that criticism from fans for a while. I did enjoy I thought the old man lost it in Connecticut when he didn't see anything in you and then you arrived. Turns out he was right. I thought that was a nice little dig. I think Adam's best response was when he pointed out that talking about his body's natural, implying that Max may not be clean at the moment.
The steroid line? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I thought that was a nice little touch.
The piss test.
Him
That's
working,
amazing.
Him working, Max as the veteran, worked Max, tricking him into a match. I thought that was a smart play. I'm curious to see where they go with this. I don't know if Adam's the guy that takes the belt off of him, but I would like Adam to be the guy to take the belt off of him. Adam's had success everywhere he's been. He's been a world champion in every promotion that he's been in. It would make sense that he would be.
For sure. Shad, your thoughts as well.
Finally, it's just finally, man. I'm finally compelled for a storyline for this world title with MJF's reign, and I absolutely loved that 4 pillars match, but the build up to that I absolutely did not like. Those two put on an absolute like professional wrestling back and forth promo clinic last night. MJF is continuously showing us why he's like just the best on the mic right now. Like the guy is so good at just getting digs and attacking his opponent, and he's not afraid to play on reality. And that's one thing I do love about what AEW does, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, why do you need to bring up the other promotion and whatnot? No, bring it up. We are all pro wrestling fans. We all live in the same stratosphere. Bring up reality, bring up stuff like that. And I don't even think it's that like it's low hanging fruit, but it's not like cheeky comedy. Like he's really like throwing personals at him. Like, I'm a battle rap fan, so when you personally attack your opponent, like that's the type of stuff that I love. But Adam Cole came directly back, man. He was not letting him punk him out. And this is a storyline and this is a rivalry that, like Anthony mentioned, we don't know. You honestly might not know who's going to win. And that, as fans, is what you absolutely love, because you can cut it each way and you're going to be probably content with the result at the end of the day. Like, and then you're also giving him a former, like I mentioned with the last one, the 4 pillar match. I didn't believe any of those 3 opponents were going to get the title off of him. Adam Cole is being positioned and pushed like one of the top baby faces on that roster. I mean, you see that he's doing the commercials for that show. He's got the relationship. He's over as anything. We all love Adam Cole. I'm excited, man. I got my popcorn ready for this feud.
Between the 3 of us here, and not to put you out there, Anthony,
story.
I think we covered this brilliantly, because the brilliance that we've all mentioned of Adam Cole sitting in that ring I don't care how confident of a man you are. If you're Adam Cole with his resume, to sit and hear that type of shoot real life. I mean, that's right. There's always the old trope, the old cliche, which does have some truth to it. The best wrestling has some realism. Boy, did that promo have some realism on both sides. On both sides. We know what Adam Cole's gone through with the injury the last year since Forbidden Door. We know what he's gone through. And you think he had time to lift weights and deal with the body stuff during that year? Probably not. So that's even low. I mean, you're talking about going low, and to not react and sit in that corner and be the Adam Cole baby we expect him to. It's one of the most impressive things in my eyes that we saw last night. That is hard to do, is to sit for 10 minutes and be disrespected. I don't care what industry you're in. If you're acting on a sitcom and stuff hits that close to home, it's real hard to stay firm and stay strong and stand in there. And he did it, and then he brought back the heat. Now, before we get on to the next topic, and we'll keep talking about MJF Cole because I could talk about it all day, but we got some comments about it, including one I've got to show. And Anthony Manzano, we appreciate you so much because you watch so many shows and you comment so much. But man, do I disagree with this one. Honestly, I feel Maxwell is a little bit overrated. On the mic to me?
No.
He's just a ripoff of The Miz with better storytelling inside the ring and technical ability. I love you dearly, Anthony. I'm going to feel this one myself.
Go ahead.
The Miz is brilliant. He is. He's great in the ring. The difference is The Miz is whiny. And The Miz is obviously beatable most of the time. The worst part about Max is he is that asshole. He is that thorn in your side. He's that dude at school that you go, no one likes it, but he somehow gets everything right. He's the captain of the football team. He gets straight A's. He's got the AEW world title, and he won't let you hear the end of it. He won't let you hear the end of it. It's one of those things where Max is on the Flair planet, where it's not jealousy, because no one was jealous of Flair. Flair always seemed outlandish, but he had the big gold belt, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing. That's unfortunately the difference in my eyes between Max and Miz.
The one thing I want to point out, and it won't be long, Roddy Piper always said, when people asked what caused the success of WrestleMania 1, was it him? Was it Hogan? Was it Vince? He goes, at the end of the day, people paid money to see me get my ass kicked. You could have put anybody up against me. It was about them wanting to see me get beat. And I think MJF is the same way.
I think so too. And so Anthony made this comment. And Anthony, seriously, obviously, this is just fun discussion, not you, Ricciardi.
Yes, I know.
Manzano at this point. And toss it to Shad here in 1 second. But like the one thing that I would say is I feel like the difference is we've seen Miz lose so many times that he does not seem threatening. MJF finds a way to sleaze his way out of everything outside of being squashed by Wardlow.
Yeah.
In a way that his mic work lands, I think, more firmly than Miz's does these days. Not that Miz isn't great on the microphone.
MJF's is more real.
They're comparable.
It's
Max's youth, Max's I don't want to say equally charismatic.
He's way more. He's more cutthroat.
Yeah, it's more real.
It's the cutthroat.
Yeah, Shad. How do you feel about it, Shad?
So this is always the comparison is between him and the Miz, and I can see the similarities, but Max is just like I'm saying. Maybe it's part of what brands we're talking about. WWE is more family friendly nowadays. Stuff like that, stuff like Max says won't fly on Fox television, on non-cable television. Like he can let it fly on AEW, but I just feel MJF is like you mentioned, he's just way more of a developed character in this current moment of wrestling. Now, Miz is a Hall of Famer. He is one of like people have their opinions. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I can be, humble enough to appreciate and respect all that he's done. But I just think MJF is more of a real character and more of a real heel, in my opinion.
The believability of being the Long Island rich kid, I think this is another factor. We also know Miz came from a great family in Cleveland. His parents and him get along amazing. We know that history. Max still, his parents still like hold signs at the thing like we hate Max. Like
Yes.
the amount of heel behavior out of Maxwell Jacob Friedman is
And he
on
plays it all, and he
another
plays it
planet.
off on. He sticks kayfabe too. He acts like that on Twitter, interviews, press conferences, stuff like that. He plays the bit so well.
Absolutely.
Meet and greets. He makes fun of like kids in wheelchairs and stuff. Like, I mean, it's
unbelievable.
that's.
I mean, he spit on a kid.
It's
you talk about carrying the gimmick. It's unbelievable. And obviously, we got to get the throwback. But I'm looking at the rest of the topics, and as long as you two are cool with it, I'm gonna say this live on air. How about we flip some stuff? I'm gonna skip a few topics. We'll do the real important ones. Get the throwback, and if we have time, go back to the others, and maybe we'll go over. I don't know, maybe bonus time. But just while we're hot, we've got so many comments. This is key. So let's start with this one. Well, I mean, Anthony's first one about the championship feud, we kind of covered that. This is interesting. Matt Williams, shout out Matt Williams. Thank you again for the comments. Pro wrestling is at its best when the lines are blurred. That's why it's AEW over WWE all day for me as a viewer. Interesting, my friend. When I first kind of really, I'm not saying I mean, I watched the big four in WWE for like a 4-year stretch. I wasn't a lapsed fan. When I first came back, I will say it was AEW. Wasn't even AEW, it was actually All In that brought me back. Brought me back all the way. And then I started watching WWE again too. So WWE should be thanking. I'm just kidding. But at the same time, AEW feels like they give people mics and just let them go, or put people in a match and just let them work, when WWE is the exact opposite. I'll fill that one real quickly. Scripted promos, long been a debate in the WWE. We kind of all, that's common knowledge. AEW is not doing that. If you go back and watch 80s wrestling, you go back and watch Smoky Mountain. In the 90s, you go back and watch, Stampede. You go back and watch ECW, any of the territories, or even more importantly than that, Mid-South, any of the old school territories, it's going to not be scripted. It will be hand them a mic and ad lib and tell a story with some notes. That's kind of the juxtaposition we're at, right? AEW does present a level of throwback wrestling in that sense, where with today's technology, camera wise, we're going to be more exposed to botches and stuff we wouldn't have seen in the 70s and 80s with that style. But I do also believe that style of promo is highly effective at the same exact time. So the next one, I already showed that one. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but it feels as real as wrestling can get from me. Appreciate that. I had the honor of watching The Miz versus Tatanka in person, and how much The Miz has grown. You got to respect it. That's an excellent point. I mean, Tatanka.
It's valid.
Sure.
Yeah. SmackDown, that's awesome. Anthony, the specific part that I agree with, that what Adam Cole, when he said that 100% that locker room hates Maxwell because he doesn't take his job seriously.
Can I run with that?
Yeah, you're allowed to go.
All right, I'm going to run with that. Max takes his job more seriously than any of them. He's working that gimmick all the time. He's working the bare minimum because every time he's out there, it matters. There's people that work multiple dates. No one cares.
Yeah.
They care when he's on. So that's why he's able to do the quote unquote bare minimum as far as how many matches he wrestles. But that man's working the gimmick all the time.
It's the same with Roman Reigns, man. Roman Reigns ain't
True.
wrestling on every SmackDown,
Hey,
and he's
absence makes
important.
the heart grow fonder, right?
Yeah,
Speaking of cliches, but Shad, yeah, okay, we're good. Then last one for me, there's a limit to allowing your talent to go on a hot microphone and do a promo without cutting them off at a certain point.
Depends
I'm
on the
gonna
talent.
disagree there.
Depends on the talent.
I would point to This Is Your Life, The Rock and
Yep.
Mankind, which went
Still
3
the highest
segments
rated segment
over.
Mhm.
I would okay, then we have one more, Anthony, and I hear you on this. I mean, they have Gorilla, they have production, they're on a major
Time
network.
schedule. Yeah.
There's not no one backstage. There's
Yeah.
people
hey, man,
backstage.
no
Yeah.
wrestling promotion is perfect, man. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they do have, production timelines that they have to, right? They have to hit the hard out
Yep.
for network breaks. They have to go picture in picture for commercials. It
Yep.
wouldn't be possible to produce the show flippantly without anybody in the ear of the referee, in the ear of the commentators, in the ear of production as a whole. And I mean, that's just, I understand where you're coming from. It's not run as tightly as, say, the WWE over the years. I mean, WWE, let's not forget had what was a 56-year head start.
Yes.
yeah,
Um,
this
they've
is
had
only a 4-year-old promotion, man.
4-year-old promotion and again on
A
major network
toddler.
television. It's huge, right? WCW was a 15-year-old promotion before they got a network deal
Mhm.
and then actually competed in the late 90s. While I totally hear where Anthony's coming from, Manzano, there's somebody back there doing something. There just
Yes.
has to be.
Mhm.
But with that, let's move on to let's do a couple more topics, then we'll jump into throwback about the 46 mark, guys.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got quickly. We already touched on the BCC. We touched
Yeah.
on all that. Callis and Takashita was an awesome segment. We're kind of going to skip over that one really quickly.
Yep.
It is what it was. We all envisioned them joining the BCC.
Mhm.
Am I wrong, Shad? Do you have any
That's where it
I
should
disagreement?
mean,
have.
he's gonna have some affiliation, and it's gonna lead to
Yeah,
that match for sure. I mean, it's kind of similar to what it was last week. The same heel heat. You're kind of seeing Don Callis play the like. I don't even know who he wrestled. I thought he was wrestling Shawn Spears for a second last
hey,
night.
that's what it seemed like. So
But
we'll
yeah,
move on from that one. Statlander, Anna Jay. Gosh, two of the most talented women in the division, and we're not trying to skip through this too fast. We all saw the match. Stat was gonna retain the whole way. They did my girl Anna Jay dirty on this one in my eyes. Anybody got anything to add on that
The,
one?
the
I
only
don't.
the
Go
only
ahead, go
thing
ahead.
the only thing that it wasn't even the match, it was post match or showing Taya backstage and like she's angry. Explain why or ask the question why. I assume as an audience member, you assume going, oh, she softened Jade up and Chris Statler snuck in and took the title, and that's why she's mad. But you didn't question it. You just went, she's mad backstage. Well, wouldn't you want her? Wouldn't you want Chris Statlander to retain because you now want to beat her? You don't
Right.
want Anna Jay to win it. You want Chris Statlander to retain so you could get your revenge on her. I mean, logically.
100%.
I mean, in my opinion, well, two things. One, Anna Jay she plays her role very well, and I've been very. It's really great to see how much she's progressed, being one of the like really new to pro wrestling and getting in there. She's getting the character work down a lot. I love Daddy Magic being there as the manager
I love
and
Daddy
whatnot.
Magic.
In
It was
the
awesome.
David Putty 8-ball jacket, yeah.
J ball jacket, yeah, that was clean. Um, yeah, the Taya Valkyrie. Even if I can understand why she obviously wants it, and I feel like I agree with Anthony 100%. We need to explain the story way more. I don't want to just see her grumpy, looking at the television, like just pissed off. It's gonna go to her becoming a heel. That's cool. I think her and Stat is gonna be an awesome match. But let's not forget, you lost 2 times, Taya. You lost 2 opportunities at the TBS title. I'm cool with this being the thing, but let's tell a story with her fighting her way back up to getting an opportunity again. So I feel like I feel like AEW has a very talented women's division. I still think TK has miles upon miles with getting stuff with storylines to be clicking together because there's so much talent. We don't get a lot of TV time. There was only like one women's segment last night besides the
Yeah.
promo with Tony Storm. Come
Yeah,
on, man, let's do better than that.
And that's the
we
problem.
can do better.
They stick people out there like Anna Jay, and they're like, okay, we're going to have her job out. You won't see her again. They did it with Nyla
Right.
Rose last week. She was on there.
Revolving
all
door.
catering.
Sky Blue will be the next week.
Yes.
Like
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem where they'll stick them out and like, okay, why is she getting a title shot? We never see her. Like, just logically, none of that makes sense. And I think that's
Right.
one of the things they struggle with.
100%. So let's move on to Tony Khan's fourth, count 'em, like the Horsemen, consecutive big announcement. Woo! Get excited, guys. We had our fourth big announcement, and I'm excited because I called this September of 2022. We're going to see CM Punk in a ring for AEW. We're going to hear Cult of Personality in an AEW arena in 2023. And guess what? Now we got a date for it. Now we're talking. We got Punk and FTR knocking the dust off their boots against the Bullet Club Gold Light or whatever they're called. And yeah, Diet Bullet Club. And so yeah, that's right. It's low calories, 0 calorie Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And so
oh my god, you're funny.
Yeah, right. Isn't that what they're called? And so Punk's coming back, and I'm ready for Punk and FTR versus the Elite. Let's just do it. But along the way, I'm excited about this one. Obviously, we also saw Jay White defeat Ricky Starks with some help from the Guns. And then we saw that the Guns might join Diet Bullet Club. And so I want to get you guys' thoughts. I've actually tossed it to you, Anthony, the first 2 in a row. I've been counting this time since we skipped topics. I'm going to toss it to Shad.
All right, fine.
Then we're going to you. No, we're going to you next. We're going to Shad first.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well,
the
match itself I thought was cool. Don't like the ending. I think there's just a lot happening with the ending. I feel like so you sign, and I'll try to make this as fast as I can.
Yeah,
you sign Jay White. Jay White is the big free agent signing. He, like, I think yesterday was probably the first time I heard him on the mic in front of a crowd. Really, like you're not, and then you get his victory comes with distractions. I know he's a heel. I feel like it takes away from him because he's such a star and you need help and stuff. But that's fine. Whatever, that can be it. Ricky Starks deserves better as well because he's a superstar. But I mean, we knew he was going to lose this feud to Jay White going into it. In regards to the Bullet Club Gold having new members and it being the Gun Club, well, Bullet's going to Guns.
Oh,
I'm all for this, man. I'm all for this. Now, this might not, and of course, it's different. But like, hey, we got the OC in WWE. We got Mia Yim joining. I mean, that came out of nowhere.
I dig
I'm
it.
all for it. They are heels. These dudes are such good, snarmy, like just annoying heel dudes, man. Like I really, I like the Gun Club. I like the potential. I think you add it to them and give them something to do, man. Like let's just have I think all 4 of them as a heel faction. They deserve it. They came out to 50 Cent's Many Men. They deserve this.
Oh, and like you said, the line of the show so far: Bullets going Guns.
Going to Guns.
All right, Anthony, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, last week we made fun of it, so I might as well continue the train on this. The Bullet Club Gold name is really horrible. I mean, it sounds like a tier for that Bosley's Hair Club for men. It sounds like a tier that you sign up for. I hate it, the fact they're referring to them as a faction when it's just 2 guys. It's really just a team. I think they're relying on nostalgia with Bullet Club because I don't really think Bullet Club's necessarily relevant today. I don't know. I couldn't even name a member that's in there in Japan now. And even when I didn't really watch New Japan on a normal basis, when they were a major thing, I knew AJ Styles was in there. I knew Prince Devitt was in there. I knew Jay White was a leader of the group. I knew these things, Kenny Omega, all of them. So putting the Guns in there should help it. At least it would actually be a legitimate stable at that point. And I think the Guns could use it because, they need something more than just feuding with their dad and being more over by being called the Ass Boys by Danhausen. So they need something, and I agree with Shad's, guns go, bullets go in guns. It makes sense. I get that. That works. The big announcement, for me, I'm more interested in CM Punk and Joe, knowing their history. That interests me more than, to me, that would be the more interesting match for me, going in the Collision as opposed to a 6-man. If I was booking it, I would go Punk and Joe, and to pull something out of their past, of their series of 3, I'd have it go to a draw.
I love that. Totally hear it. And then I also, just before we finally move on to Throwback, I want you guys to know I'm open to a P.O. box for all the apology letters for CM Punk's not coming back to AEW. You guys can send it to me. I'll get the address. We'll post it on the website. Don't worry about it. You guys can all say you're sorry and that I was right, and I'll totally let it go. Don't even worry about it. I'm kidding. But we'll finally. You guys ready? It's Throwback Thursday. I'm too excited because it is a somber one, unfortunately. Let's honor an absolute legend, first ballot Hall of Famer, no question. My own father's favorite heel of all time, the Iron Sheik. Rest in peace. Wrestling would not be the same without him. Where do we even start? Absolute trailblazer in every sense of the word. There's not enough positive things I can say about the Iron Sheik and the impact he made on the business that we all talk about day in and day out and work inside of. Iron Sheik is absolute Mount Rushmore in my eyes. And 81 years, thankfully, an amazing long life and a legacy left for all of us to cherish forever. Let's start and do our best to honor him today. I'm going to start with you, Anthony, and then toss to you, Shad. Anthony, you'll go first. Give me your thoughts on Iron Sheik.
I mean, it's a shame this is the second one of these throwbacks that we had to do in the past month for an absolute legend passing away of superstar Billy Graham, and now it's Iron Sheik. Just a recommendation for anybody watching. There is a really good documentary on Sheik on Amazon Prime right now that details his entire life and, how he was a guard for the Sheik in Iran and his time in the Olympics and his, leaving there and coming to the States and getting out of the country because he was afraid of what would happen if he was going to be killed there. The loss of his daughter. But Sheik's impact in the business, he is the catalyst that launched Hulkamania. He, as the champion, took the pinfall that launched Hulkamania, which was WWF's big boom in the 80s, and how we're where we are today. That's a huge seminal moment in wrestling. And whether it's disputed, I know it's disputed by Greg Gagne, that whether or not his father offered Sheik money to, instead of doing the job for Hogan in WWF, to break Hogan's leg. If it is true, the fact that Sheik went, no, that's not right, and wouldn't do it is amazing. If it's true, I have no idea whether or not it's true, wasn't there. But Sheik, with that moment, Hulkamania, his feud with Sergeant Slaughter, and his last, at least WWF wrestling appearance was at the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17, which one of the things is told that, he wasn't supposed to win that. When he got down to the ring, they realized, he can't take the bump out of the ring. So that it was a last minute call. They decided to have him win because he couldn't actually take the bump to get out. Right. But one of the most over heels, both on social media, and he has like a cult following now, arguably maybe even bigger than he had during the heat of his career.
As far as fandom is concerned, for
Yes.
sure. Shot. Let me hear your thoughts on the Iron Sheik.
Well, first and foremost, man, let me give my thoughts and prayers and condolences to Iron Sheik's family, loved ones, everybody in the wrestling community. Yeah, man, I mean, share a lot of same thoughts. I mean, this is an icon, man. Like, this is a dude who's a legend upon legends, one of the more like popular figures in the 1980s. A person that like my older brother, my uncle, when I've obviously older and watched wrestling, were fans of. And to me, it also shares uh, a lot of like sadness because he's also a trailblazer in a way. Him being a person who is Middle Eastern, being a brown man, like I've mentioned, obviously in previous ones with how important like representation with like Sami Zayn,
Yep.
Mustafa Ali. Iron Sheik was one of the main guys. He was one of the trailblazers. He's a character like that. And I mean, he's got so many iconic moments, and he's become such a popular figure, uh, like long after pro wrestling, just with his, his satire tweets and comedy and stuff like that. He was just a cool guy. I've seen like, obviously with his passing, you go back and see stuff. Had videos of him on Jerry Springer, who also passed away recently. You see stuff like that, which is a full circle moment. And like, yeah, man, just so many classic moments, so many classic feuds. Him, Sergeant Slaughter, him and Hogan, of course. I mean, it's such a sad day for the pro wrestling community, and 81 years is a achievement, man. 81 laps around this earth is like something a lot of people won't, be able to get to do, and him being able to, live a lifetime is incredible through all the adversity that he was going on in his life and whatnot. So yeah, definitely gonna keep my prayers and thoughts out to his family.
Absolutely, Shot and Anthony, and both you guys got me choked up all of a sudden. I had to take a few deep breaths during all of that. Yeah, his impact on the wrestling industry, and both of you guys mentioned how many ways he impacted what we see and what we do today, and that's what's so amazing. And Shad, you talked about the representation. I mean, that is amazing, and we've got some comments. And I'm going to dive into them. And Anthony Manzano is, friend of the show and a great guy, but he did as a wrestling show from different eras, so you can't compare it earlier. So I'm going to preface that with this one. He mentioned the Howard Stern interview. I'll say this. To be completely honest, I prefer to remember the Iron Sheik as the athlete that he was, the Olympian, the club twirling,
the wrestling character as well.
Not just the wrestling character.
No, I know, but
and
as well.
And the man
Yeah.
he was as a whole. After he lost his daughter,
murdered.
Murdered. His daughter was murdered, and he long spoke about he was going to retaliate, and he did not. And he had drug issues following that, that deeply affected the end of his life. And to judge him off of a low moment like that, I have a hard time with. While it was entertaining the first time I saw the Howard Stern interview, it's outlandish, it's out there. Knowing the backstory and knowing what happened with Sheik and his family, and knowing that he was under the influence at the time, and knowing that he was not in a position to truly even take care of himself because he was so traumatized and so hurt by the situation. I have a hard time with that one personally. And I'm not trying to knock you for asking the question, because that's why I prefaced it with the different eras thing. But I have an understanding at this point that I prefer to remember the Sheik for the strong Sheik. Right, Shad, go ahead.
I mean, this is kind of a like deeper, like question and a deeper like meaning towards it. But I mean, as human beings, none of us are perfect, man. We all have made mistakes in our lifetime. I'm one person that is, and I have a belief myself. I'm not here to tap dance on anyone's grave, and I'm not here to microscope stuff like that or talk bad while they're no longer here in spirit. Obviously, we
Yes, sir.
know a lot of wrestlers back in that time frame, and I'm talking about from
Yes, sir.
80s, 90s, early 2000s. No, there was a lot of crazy stuff that it was a different time, and of course, a lot of it is not socially acceptable, and it shouldn't be, and it's stuff that we're
Yeah.
not condoning. But yeah, we're simply reminiscing on the character who is Iron Sheik. Obviously, who he is a man. Outside of it is different and whatnot, but we're solely just talking about the pro wrestler, the Iron Sheik.
And I couldn't agree more, but both do matter, right?
Right.
Both the man and the wrestler do matter. We're talking about the wrestler, right? And that's what I love the way you presented that. But they do both, and that's the only reason I wanted to mention that comment. I'm like, that was a thing, not today, right? Um, but so a better question, and thank you, Anthony. Awesome. Yes, really appreciate that comment, Anthony. And didn't we're not trying to throw you under the bus in any way. Now, I will say this. Who's the bigger heel, Iron Sheik or Roddy Piper? Let's end this on a fun one because I think Sheik himself would love this.
Yeah.
Right? Who's the bigger heel? This is a fun one. Let's start with who wants to go first. Anthony, you want to go? And then
I can go.
What do you think? Pick one.
I'm going to go with it's simple enough. I'm going to say Piper because as far as I know, Sheik wasn't stabbed by fans and Piper was stabbed on 3 separate occasions by fans. So if we're going heel heat, I don't know how you top 3 stabbings.
I totally hear that. Shad.
I got Piper, man. Piper, he was
Piper too?
Yeah, man. Piper was I don't know, bro. He was savage, man. There's something about him. I love Sheik, man, but like if we're subjectively like talking who was bigger, I got to go with Piper, man.
I think I'm going to be the only one. No, obviously I am. There's only 3 of us here.
Yes.
I'm going to go Iron Sheik, but I'll give you guys my reasoning here. I believe that Piper had the better knack for the ability to garner heat.
Mm-hmm.
Once the Iron Sheik understood the juxtaposition of the political crisis that we had in those 80s, he played his role during the Iranian hostage crisis.
Yeah.
And was throwing it in the face of America. I mean, could you imagine in today's day and age, Sergeant Slaughter came out in the middle of Madison Square Garden, delivered a promo. He's the second biggest heel in the company, besides Sheik at the time. Yeah. And just does the Pledge of Allegiance, and the whole garden does it too.
Yeah.
The pledge, we'd be giggling like, dude, why are we doing the pledge?
Oh man.
Like,
I guess I have a sense of just that type of stuff is. I guess I'm basing off of just a pure heel. It's a ridiculous story. It's ridiculous that they've said it to be like that.
Possible, but the body of work from Sheik, and then he goes against Hogan, Mr. Real American, take your vitamins, deep in the heart of the Cold War. By the way, Sheik's an American citizen.
Yes.
He left Iran because of his own safety.
He defected. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with his culture or his, you know what I mean? Any of that. He just knew how to play the character and time and place. But I would argue that there's no more heat than in the middle of the Cold War in America. Mocking, Piper was an amazing heel. If we're comparing maybe mic work, but Sheik did everything he possibly could with the character. But the brilliance of it is, if you see Sheik later in life, he's in the American flag bandana very often.
Yeah.
And he's friends with almost everyone he ever worked with.
Well, the thing is,
almost no one today that I've heard has a bad thing to say about the guy as a person.
Yeah.
And that should not go without saying.
Well, the other thing is when he came to the country, it was about he worked with the U.S. Olympic team.
Exactly. No, he coached. He was an
US
Olympic coach. Mm-hmm. Guys, with that, again, thoughts and prayers with Iron Sheik, his family, the whole wrestling community. Thank you guys so much for having us on Throwback Thursday. For me, Anthony, Shad, thank you so much for joining us, bro. We really appreciate it. It was a blast.
For sure, man.
It's been a fun show. We'll see you all tomorrow. Back at the normal time, a little earlier in the day. But other than that, yeah, if you haven't liked and subscribed, go ahead and do that, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right.